Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
It was a dark time in the land of the Code 47 podcast. Back again for episode 79. I am cameraless for this episode, which I'm super duper unhappy about, but I'll grouse more about that as time goes on. But hello everyone. Great to be back. You can't see me. This was the first episode that we were going to do something super cool together visually. And I turned my camera on and it's not working. I just don't know what to do about it. Oh my gosh. But anyway, we are here. This is Charlie Carden coming at you, Trek Lord of West Michigan, captain of the USS Grand Petoskey, a chapter of the International Star Trek Fan Club, joined by Peter Stein. Peter, say hello.
Hey, everybody.
And of course, the magnificent Katie Q. Katie, say hello.
Hello.
Oh, we are all wearing our cool Ritos t-shirts, which is, of course, I'm doing it. I'm there with you guys. I am.
I don't believe you. I think you're probably wearing like your Star Wars t-shirt.
Oh, no, never.
And, yeah, you're just too embarrassed to say or to acknowledge that you put on the wrong t-shirt today.
It's not true. It's all a big facade. Oh, damn it, I got caught. Oh, but anyway, we're going to move forward as best we can. I'm really bummed out. So what I'm hoping about is that obviously when you're watching the YouTube video, you're going to see how cool. And I even did an Instagram post about this like an hour ago because I was so excited for us to have this going. So anyway, next episode will be fixed. But anyway, we're back now. We're going to jump right back into it. We are just a few days away from the first episode of season 3 of Lower Decks. Super fired up. Lower Decks. Yeah. Eventually, we'll get synchronized so that we all say it at the same time.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened yet, but what we're going to do here for Funsy Dunsies is we're going to run through and talk about season 2, the way that in our last episode we talked about how much we were enjoying season 1. Obviously, we don't have to go through the recap again. We know what the show is about and all that fun stuff, but we're going to talk about season 2. And season 2, if you've listened to the show with previous co-hosts, we've been through the program before. Talked about each episode as it was coming out. But when we got to season 2, the folks that I was recording with, and I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to throw shade at anyone for how they felt about those episodes and not liking the series. But, I was recording with a couple of people at the time that just absolutely did not care for it. And we would get on every week and they would talk about how they found it kind of offensive and they found it unfunny. And then Katie comes along. She's like, "What are you talking about? This show is fantastic. You need to watch it again. We're going to do a whole segment about how great it is." And we did. And I just really started to turn around the way I felt about it. So first and foremost, we're back with another 10 episodes where we're just doing more kind of crazy crap and getting around and digging in and doing some fun and different stuff. So let's kick it off. So we're going to go around. We're going to talk about a favorite moment. We're going to talk about moments that we don't like, and then we're going to put in our kind of prediction for season 3, like something we're really dying to see. So, what's the best way to handle this, you guys? You want to? Why don't we start? Katie, why don't you start? Talk to me a little bit about some favorite. Let's go favorite moments, because favorite moment just doesn't really seem like that's really going to get the job done. So, Katie, talk to me about some of your favorite moments from season 2.
First off, I want to apologize to anyone who was in agreement with the previous co-hosts who didn't like Lower Decks and are now having to deal with all of this Lower Decks content because I came on and was like, "No, we're talking about it all the time because it's amazing." But I think I need to separate my favorite moments into just like favorite moments of stupidity, like just that wonderful, heartfelt stupidity that we have come to expect from Lower Decks, and then our favorite like Star Trek moments where they just really feel like it jives with Star Trek. because I was thinking about like my favorite episode, and I definitely have to say I think overall the first contact, which was the season finale for season 2, it felt like they really nailed the kind of ingenuity and like drive and kind of those last moment like stress and seat of your pants kind of moments and anxiety that you expect from a really good Star Trek episode, while mashing it with that stupid, fun, witty humor that you get from Lower Decks. I mean, because you have it where like they are flying blind with 2 people on either side, like through an asteroid field, you know, telling first lieutenant where to like how to go through and navigate this field because they can't have electricity, can't do anything like that. So it's really high stakes. They've had to strip the ship down of everything. And at the same time, you have dolphins who are making like basically sexually harassing Rutherford the entire time. Like it's you get just really great. It's a really great mashup, and it felt like they really got where they were trying to go with the feel and vibe of it.
Yeah.
But then like my favorite moment, like I was trying to think of like, well then if that's my caliber for what was my favorite, what one would be the antithesis of that? And it seems like that was the what is the spy Among Us? Among Us?
Among Us.
Yes, because that one there's not really a lot of narrative drive. There's not really. It's just stupid. It's just, but it's absolutely fantastic, and it's still one of my favorite episodes because like we were talking about it before while you were doing your camera stuff, and it's like, oh, I can't make those decisions. I don't have a big enough hat.
That's analogous to this old routine that Dennis Leary does about the Catholic Church. He says God must have a huge fucking sombrero because it's all about the hat.
Yes, exactly. And that's saying like, and you've got the Packlet refugee. And it's just so stupid, but it's so much fun because like they keep referring to the Freeman as Janeway, and they're like, I beat Janeway because they can't like come up with the idea that there might be more than one captain. Yeah. So, but those would definitely be like my favorite like moments. I feel like.
Gotcha. All right, Peter, let it loose.
Well, I would have to agree that the final episode is my favorite. It just, like Katie said, like there's not a whole lot that I can add there because you explained it really, really well.
Thank you.
So, but it's just a great episode, and I think it was one of those ones where like one of the things for me, I love starships, and the ship that they brought in, the Archimedes, was like a 24th century upgrade, finally, of the Excelsior.
Right.
And it looked really, really good, at least to me. So that was just one thing I really liked about that, and they brought in Captain Sonia Gomez, who we have since like TNG season 2.
Yes,
such a great throwback. Yeah.
So and it was one of those like the minute she stepped on screen, it's like, I know who that is. That's cool.
And it's cool to think about them being having been pals at that time because there was a one of these like I found this frame or whatever it is. It was from season 1 of TNG. It was that where the bow breaks episode where they ran into the Aldans who we can't have children, so they stole a bunch of kids from the ship, and they showed a screenshot of like because they're beaming kids out. And so one of them was in the classroom, and they beamed out, and there's this a little girl in the back. She's black and like, what if this was Beckett Mariner because Freeman was also on the ship at the same time? Maybe that's actually correct. Because what if Sonia Gomez and Freeman served on the Enterprise at the time, and therefore Mariner was, well, I guess we'd have to do the math to figure. I could have lived on the Enterprise, it just hasn't been brought up. I think. Well,
it's very clear that she knows Riker, so my imagining is that they were both on the Enterprise D.
Right.
Because the way that Freeman and Riker interact, they've clearly known each other for quite a while. And because Riker was on the Enterprise D for basically its whole life.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they have been on the ship.
Right. Exactly correct.
So yeah, that was probably my favorite episode was First Contact for the Star Trek moments.
Yeah.
I also really like the Spy Humongous because I just love how they've taken the Packlets and taken them from just like a one-trick pony to being a two-trick pony,
Right.
but they're still like they did it really, really well. But another one that I really, really liked was I Excretus.
Yeah.
That one was mostly because it was just chock full of just references to some of the greatest moments in some of the previous series. You mostly tongue in cheek, like when the trailer came out and they showed like Rutherford standing in a motion picture era engine room. I was like, oh, that's cool. It lasted all of like 50 seconds, but it was still really fun. Or like, Boimler going, I have to get to perfection. Don't get to perfection, Boimler. Drag this out as long as you can. All right. So like you see Boimler's perfectionism, but he's willing to sacrifice for the crew, like sacrifice that perfectionism. So like they played it tongue in cheek and it was really, really funny. But you saw like there was some character growth there, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, they still played it true to the characters.
Yeah. And then they brought in the detaching 3-piece alien from the animated series. They really, really like dragging stuff in from the animated.
Right, exactly. Like I said, in bits and pieces, and we've talked about this in the past. There's not a lot of love lost for TAS. The original animated series from back then.
There's a few good episodes.
Right, but even like I've said, and I feel like I said this in previously, is that even Gene Roddenberry was like, no, it's not canon. Forget even before canon was a word, I think he said it was apocryphal. It's apocryphal, which means the same thing. But any time that, and again, Star Wars is a great piece of this. They're like, well, everything pre-Disney's Legends, but I like this thing, so now I'm going to suck it back in, and it's a background thing in this corner of this episode of The Mandalorian, and now it's a thing. Or this is so great, the way that B. Arthur's character, who was in the cantina, was made canon because it got referenced in the From a Certain Point of View book, which was all the little interstitial stories that happened around A New Hope. It's a bird of a different feather. Talk about that another time. But yeah, it's kind of the same deal. So, well, cool. All right, is that it? Is it my turn, or Peter? Or did I just jump in and steal it from you?
No, the only other moment that I'll have to mention is the bar where they went and found out that Kirk and Spock managed to get themselves kicked out of another captain's party.
That was fantastic.
So, because it's like, oh, they didn't make it, and they're going to be famous. It was like, yeah, that totally seems like a Kirk and Spock thing to like show up, and people are like, we don't want to hang out with you because you do shit, and we don't like that.
Right.
Or Kirk just getting too rowdy and then getting kicked out.
Or Kirk, like, I mean, imagine this is like right after the Enterprise incident or something, and then they're like, Kirk, you dingus, we're not dealing with you.
You leave that Romulan. That's what happened to that Romulan cloaking device. They left it there. It's under the bar.
That's why we never see it again.
Right,
they lost it.
It is. They turned it into a table. It's one of those bar tables. But all right, well, I'll take a crack at it. I'm gonna pick an episode that nobody's talked about so far, episode 7, where pleasant fountains lie when you find out about Billups's home planet, which is basically the Ren Fair in space. I love it. I mean, for me, the Dungeons and Dragons and the Ren Fair stuff has always been like a blind spot for me. It's like it's not a big part of my fandom. I have to say this is one of my favorite episodes of the series because it's just everything about it is just so ridiculous. They're like, I can't even remember the name of the different, like, what the hell they call the warp drive? It was, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. It was something
like the dragon's fire energy,
right?
Or
something. Yeah.
So they're in a way kind of like the Pac-Leds, except they're not stupid, but they have weird, dumb names for stuff that you're like, oh. But again, it's also very Star Trek because you're like, well, this is an alien species, even though they're obviously humanoid. But they have their own way of doing stuff. So in some ways, it's almost like, Kayshawn, of course, best moment of the, and I found this on Twitter, and I had to ask a guy, like, oh my God, I want one of these. Somebody has a little puppet of him.
They have the Kayshawn
puppet. Somebody made
Kayshawn when he became a puppet.
I'm like, where did you get? I gotta have one of these. I'm like, a friend made it for me. I'm like, shit. Oh, God. it to April, and she's like,
Kayshawn was
"Ooh."
one of my favorite additions to this,
Yes.
even though he wasn't in it
yes.
that much.
Right.
I loved him because I love the Temerians.
I know it's good stuff. But even in that episode, the B story with Jeffrey Combs, who was one of the more notorious
Agamus.
background actors as Agamus, the aggro computer that they're taking him, they're transporting from it's Boimler and it's Mariner, and they're transporting him from point A to point B, and they crash. And there's this obviously this whole B story where Boimler is trying to figure out, Mariner, is she keeping secrets? Is she actually this, super badass that they don't really know much about her? And then, Agamus is trying to find a way to outsmart them and take advantage of the situation and, get back into power. And Boimler finds a way to trick him, which I think is great. Boimler never seems to have the upper hand, and this is the episode where he ends up doing it, and it's great. I do, of course, love at the end where he's put in the brig with other maniacal computers, and they just keep pulling it back and forth, all in a row arguing with each other.
One of them is the CBS logo. Fun fact.
Yes, I noticed that.
Oh, no, I had no idea. That's hilarious.
Yeah, the first time I watched the episode, I was playing. I was like, "Wait a minute, rewind. That is what I thought that was."
CBS. Oh my goodness. So I would say all kind of my favorite moments are packed in. I love the episode 9, which is the Weju or whatever it is written in Klingon.
Wejduj, yeah.
Wejdu, that great alternate perspective of, this is lower decks of a Vulcan ship.
Yeah,
and it's funny how nowhere else in Star Trek in the 24th century do we see a lot of other member worlds having their own navy the way that we see. And plus the Vulcans haven't updated their ship and designed in 200 years, because their ship is the exact same ship you see in Enterprise all over the place.
It's just bigger.
You never really see, the Andorians still have their own ships, or though I feel like we see an Andorian ship in this somewhere. That it looks just like it's a modern, it's the old Enterprise design, but it's still in service. So you never really see anything about that. And then the interplay with the Klingons, which obviously bleeds right into the next episode because it's a conspiracy of how they're framing Captain Freeman, which will be obviously quickly resolved in this next episode that we're going to see this week. I love that, but again, the capper, the humor in that is the post credits or the scene that
was my favorite shot.
Lower decks of a Borg cube, absolutely no movement, absolutely the same as every other deck on the ship.
Yeah, it was so funny. Like the whole episode, I was actually sitting there going, "Are they gonna do a Borg cube? Because that would be funny." And then it was like Borg cube number whatever, and I was like, yes. And then it showed them just standing there. I was like, are they gonna just stand there the whole time? Because that would be great. And they did.
Yep. And then they do, because what's the point of them moving?
They're not doing anything because there's nothing going on.
It was so great.
Oh my gosh! So and that obviously set up. It was T'Lyn is the Vulcan character in that, and I 100% feel like she's going to show up on the Ritos, because it was just really how they teed it up. Well, cool. So that's favorite moments. Let's flip the switch. What is something during the season we saw that we did not enjoy? I have mine figured out quite easily, but again, we'll go around robin, which means Katie, you go first.
I have difficulty with this because I felt like, honestly, I think I liked this season more than the last season. So
I would tend to agree with that.
Yeah. And I know that the Mugato episode is not a favorite of folks, but I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was very funny. I'm scrolling through. I'm trying to figure out one that I'd be like, oh, which one was the weakest? I mean, I guess I switched it where I was like, I don't think it was necessarily like a least favorite, but it was a not really indicative to the plot much, which was the Iascritus one. Yeah. Or not Iascritus, excuse me, the Homungus, the spy Homungus.
Yeah.
So that was going to be my least favorite originally, just because it didn't really, it was just kind of, it felt like a filler episode, so to speak. But it also is absolutely fantastic. And I love the Packlets, so I can't really say that it was a bad episode. I plead the fifth. I don't have a bad episode.
Oh my goodness! All
I
right.
know. I'm bad that way. You know that about me, Charlie.
No help whatsoever. All right, Peter, give me something.
Oh wait, I take it back. I didn't like the Duplers themselves. I loved the ending with
Same.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, good. Yeah, the Duplers were obnoxious.
Yes,
Yeah.
I didn't love that, but I
liked everything on the station.
Yes.
The station was super cool. I agree.
And I did enjoy Rutherford with his mini warp core grenade.
Yes. Starting countdown.
Gosh.
Like,
All right, Peter, give us a dud. What's something that was like?
Aside from the Duplers themselves, I would have to say, I didn't care terribly for the Mugatos themselves in that episode, in the Mugato episode. There was a lot of stuff around it that was great, like Rutherford and Boimler doing their thing, trying to figure stuff out. The obvious crappy Steve Irwin. That was hilarious.
You have 100% stolen mine because that was exactly what I was going to talk about.
It was mostly just like I like the Mugatos when they were doing stuff, but like I didn't really care for when Rutherford and Boimler were stuck under the log. That was one of those moments where it's like, whatever. It's not bad, but it was one of those like, I can leave that one.
And it's not that I don't have a raunchy sense of humor because, oh my God, do I have a raunchy sense of humor? But I'm like, I can't even really explain why it fell so flat for me, but it really did. Yeah, they're getting humped into the ground because of the two, and then the one who wants to watch and he's stroking his own horn. I don't even want to say it's like, oh, it's too much for me. I can't handle it because, probably on the scale of Rick and Morty, which is obviously the spiritual modern day cousin in a lot of ways to the show, which I don't watch. That's probably very commonplace humor. I don't do either one of you guys watch that show with any kind of regularity? Am I the only one?
I've seen bits and pieces. The most recent season, I don't think, but yeah, it is very much on par with that kind of humor of like kind of pushing boundaries in a way that kind of turns it on its head, where because it wasn't like the humor wasn't so much the fact that like, oh, we're making like a raunchy, like sexual, stuff happening. It's the awkwardness of them being stuck in that situation, which is what makes it funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's much more like that Rick and Morty humor of we're going to kind of flip the script of, yes, we're pushing boundaries, but we're pushing them in a different way.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I get it. It just annoyed me. It was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was offended by it. It was just one of those like, whatever. I was more amused by the Steve Irwin.
Oh, that guy was hilarious. I have 3 books on Mugatos.
Wait, you published them? Oh, I read them. Wait.
All right, cool. All right, well, we've circled back around. Now it's time to think about season 3 and one burning prediction, something you want to see, a cameo you're dying for, maybe something that you've seen, in the trailer so far that has really got you excited, like something about season 3 that's kind of firing your imagination. Round robin again. Katie goes first.
Well, first in the trailer, I absolutely thought it was hilarious that they immediately were spoofing off of Picard with the vineyard. And boy, like that was immediately as soon as I saw that, I'm like, okay, yep, I don't have to worry about season 3. This is going to be just the same fantastic wonderment of the first 2 seasons. Like I said, I'm very excited for T'Lyn to be making an appearance because I have a feeling she's going to be coming back strong, and I think even we're going to be seeing, or it would surprise me if we didn't see the new captain of the Klingon ship. Because he took over at the end, and I'm trying to remember what his name was.
It is in the recap.
It is.
Keep scrolling.
Oh wait, no, I was looking at the wrong. Chita
or something. The Chita is the ship.
Oh yeah, it's a ship. Excuse me. Yeah.
MA''AH. So Mama.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Ma'a will probably be coming back, especially since he's probably going to feel like he is honor bound to fix the situation with the Packlets.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. That would,
Just because his former captain is the one who kind of initiated that whole thing.
oh, yeah. You know what? Maybe that's going to be the big fix. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I
so
can see that happening.
yeah, and as far as cameos go, I think it'd be funny to see Data or see some rendition of that, and just
Right.
because I feel like they're always bringing in some version of him in some way, shape, and form.
Oh, so more
It
like
would be funny if a Brent Spiner cameo.
Yeah,
Of some
like
sort.
some sort of Brent Spiner comes back, whether that's a new android or yet
Right.
another one of his
Another
grandchildren.
Or maybe they have an episode where we find out why B4 is disassembled.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
or maybe they decide to bring back Lore, and that's why he wasn't there. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that just reminds me of the episode on the starship where they're like with the bubbles. They have the Data bubble bath.
The bubble
and they're
bath
like,
data.
how do you know some of these aren't lore? They're not. I mean, some of them might be lore.
Yeah,
It's all the same.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
dude, it's so good. So I'd really like to see that. I imagine that they'll probably fix whatever happened with Freeman fairly quickly.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I would like to see maybe some. I'd like to see them continuing a through plot. I think that they've done a really good job of kind of keeping that going with,
Right.
maintaining kind of the fun pacing and humor that they've maintained through the first two seasons. So if they can keep the third season going as strong as the second, I'm going to be really excited.
Gotcha. All right, Peter.
Kind of looking forward to the same thing as Katie.
Yeah.
This is the strangest episode because we just agree on everything right now.
I know.
Great. I like it.
That's the
It's
thing
good.
about Dex is it brings everyone together. Usually.
You know what? It's brought together everybody except for my camera. No.
One thing that a cameo that I'm thinking might happen is we might get a Worf cameo.
Ooh,
Because we have Martok doing Klingon Dungeons and Dragons, obviously.
Right.
We might have Worf show up either like he shows up to play briefly and then was like, "This is a stupid game with no honor and leave," or like Martok uses him as an NPC and just makes him do dumb shit because Martok is feeling particularly vindictive that day. Who knows?
I would love that.
They were having some disagreement on the Klingon homeworld.
And you meet this honorless Patak. Greetings. Isn't that Commander Worf? No, of course it's not. Like something stupid like that would be great.
That would be awesome.
So I think that because they brought all of the TNG cast back for Picard season 3, there's the possibility that they had them all in one area and they could just take them quickly to a recording studio. So we might see more TNG cast members just briefly here and there. So like the Lore possibility or a Data possibility, I think that's pretty strong just because they're all there. We might see most of them this season.
I think the Lore one would be absolutely fantastic. Get some resolution on why there's no Lore in Picard season 1 when she's opening the drawers and here's the parts of B4, and then Lore never gets brought up because all we know about Lore is that
he got shut down and taken apart.
He got shut down, taken apart, and that's what we've known that for almost 30 years, and there's been no resolution on what
other thing that I'm looking forward to, and I don't know how much it's going to play, is Deep Space Nine.
Exactly.
Because they're going back to Deep Space Nine. So, again, for cameos, we might see a few DS9 cast members. Hopefully Miles O'Brien. Because they joked about him in season 1. It would be really funny to bring him back. But yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see what they do with Deep Space Nine. I don't know where that falls in the plot because trailers just pull stuff from wherever.
Right. Yeah. So you don't know if that's, hey, is this stuff from the first 3 episodes or blah, blah, blah. But DS9 is 100% mine. You guys, we're just going over too much of the same ground here. We all want the same stuff, which is just like, that's not bad. But yeah, no, DS9 is 100% where I'm at because DS9 has remained almost completely untouched since its last reference was in season, I'm going to say 6 of Voyager when it was the Pathfinder project, and that was how Barclay made contact with with Voyager, and they Deep Space Nine got an offhand reference as they were talking in the control room in that episode, and I feel like that's the last time DS9 has had any reference at all.
It got referenced in Insurrection, but I think that was before that.
Yeah, exactly. So because that was So I feel like there has been no on-screen reference to Deep Space Nine since when the hell did that episode come out in the year 2000. So we're talking about over 20 years that anybody said anything about DS9, and then there was that great documentary which came out I think in 2020.
Although if you do play Star Trek Online, there has been some heavy emphasis and some really good storylines about Deep Space Nine. So.
Absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
Not canon.
Yeah, canon-wise, no DS9 in all that time. So, yeah, Deep Space Nine, and again, like everything in the show, it'll be passing. It'll be, it'll be for the purpose of a gag. It won't be anything ongoing, and which is fine because that's what the show's all about. But yeah, DS9 is my hope, and I'd love to see, any one of the characters come. I'd like to see some Bashir O'Brien something or a Dax something. You know what I mean? So perfectly sweet. And like you said, you were like, well, maybe they had people around and pulled them into a recording studio. In this day and age, people, when their cameras work, but even if they don't, just for audio, they can do audio bits absolutely anywhere. So, it's easy to have anybody in. So, well, cool. All right. So, during the break, Peter Oxtra sent me some tips. It's a targ. It's a targ. Targ attack. Targ attack. Next time the dog stays out of the room.
I kept them in here because otherwise they'd be sitting there barking outside the door, but Aaron just got home with groceries.
It is a catch-22 to no regard. Well, yes. I'm going to see if I can fix my camera during the break. Katie, thank you so much. This was awesome. So this week, you're listening to this on Monday, potentially. Thursday of this week, we get the episode. Season 3 is on. So we're going to be back in our next episode talking about episodes 1 and 2. So I'm very excited about that. So that's going to be awesome. Katie, thanks for being here. As always, where do people find you out there?
You can find me on Twitter under quintessential or QT Geek, excuse me. That's Q_T Geek. And then on Instagram at Quintessential Geek.
Totally awesome. Good deal. All right, we're going to take a short break. Katie, we will see you next time.
Yeah. See ya. Bye.
Keep on trekking. We'll be right back. All right, back from our little break, and there was no help in the camera department. Poof. I don't know. This is a weird one. I record again tomorrow with Todd for SFU Prime. So I just don't know. My camera light is on, but I'm getting this gray screen of death with a padlock on it. It's very weird. Don't know.
Yep. Not really sure. We tried multiple things. So
we will keep working on it. But anyway, as fascinating as this is, this radio drama, of course, if you're listening to me in podcast format, it's fine. But my Cerritos shirt, I was so excited to show it off, but there has to be a solution. This will get back to it. But anyway, the real thing we need to solve is getting through these episodes of Star Trek, the original series. Oh my gosh, we got another 6-pack for you today. This season had 24 episodes, so that's split out very evenly into 6 episodes at a drop. So let's talk about season 2. So I will kick it off. We're at the end of 1968 with episode 7 of the series, The Day of the Dove, written by directed by. Okay, it was directed by Marvin Chomsky, directed by Jerome Bixby, who was a regular of the series at this point. I think he was maybe a line producer or somebody who was pretty intimately involved with it. We got this on November 1st of 1968. An alien energy-based life form that feeds off negative emotions such as fear, anger, hatred, drives the crew of the Enterprise into a brutal conflict with the Klingons. Oh my God, this gave us the character of Kang for the first time. Yep. He was really our third named, kind of major Klingon.
Yeah, Kor, Koloth, and now Kang.
Which we all get back in that great season 2 episode of Deep Space Nine.
And and you get Kang at least back in
Oh, and Voyager in the flashback episode, which was for the 30th anniversary, where we learn about Tuvok as a young ensign on the Excelsior. So this episode also gave us the first female Klingon, if I'm not mistaken, and Kor's wife, whose name was not published in this summary that I brought up. What was her name? Hold on. It was Marta or something like that. Or
Yeah,
no.
Marta. That sounds right.
Yeah, there you go. Which is a name that ends up coming up in the later Star Trek. That was Jake's Bajoran girlfriend, I think, in early episodes, the early seasons of DS9. Actually thought that this was a pretty good episode. I love the Klingon interplay. This one really benefited, I thought, from the 2006 remaster, because we actually got to see the Klingon ship, especially when they had to detonate it. But yeah, this was cool. But this, again, kind of started to really build a trope of the alien who's it, what's it, takes over the ship and then it's manipulating the crew. But it was fun because it did, weird little things like everybody's on the ship and all the phasers get turned into swords and there's sword fighting their way through it, which, you think the Klingons would be a hell of a lot better at that than the humans would be. But at this point, we didn't have anything established as far as Klingon lore as their love of edged weapons, because we never even saw.
And also these swords are straight blades, so
yeah,
Klingons
exactly.
don't usually use those.
Right. We never, because we never saw a Dartog, we never saw a Batleth until well into the TOS films. Because we first saw the Dartog knife with the little detractable side pieces when it got got plunged into David Marcus's chest. Ouch. I dug this episode. Again, it was silly in the way that, in particular, a lot of the episodes in this season are silly because it's it's not a great track, but I liked it. I thought it was good. I enjoyed the Klingon interplay, and of course the fact that Kirk and Spock figured it out at the end of it, and they really know what they need to do to outsmart the alien. It's pretty good. I liked it. Yeah,
it was a pretty good episode. It ended a little weirdly for me. Like, it felt like it needed one last scene, but it was fine.
There was a lot of, there's a lot of, like, it had a kind of a He-Man ending with patting each other on the back and it was a little too silly.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it could have used one more scene where they
because
send Kang and company home.
Yeah, you don't even know what the hell happened to it. And now you guys are all going to a Federation penal colony just for shits and giggles. we don't really care. All right. So moving on, next episode is yours.
All right. Episode 8, which for the longest time until Discovery came out, held the title for the longest episode title.
Yeah, you say with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words, 11 words.
Yeah, whereas I think Discovery has had like almost complete sentences, but they have a full phrase in here.
I got in the elevator and rode up to the top floor where I went to the restaurant and had a sandwich.
There you go. That's a new episode title. So this one, For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky, directed by Tony Leader, written by Rick Valertz, I think, aired November 8th, 1968. As McCoy discovers he is dying of an incurable disease, the crew of the Enterprise rush to stop an asteroid from colliding with a Federation world, only to discover that the asteroid is, in fact, a disguised alien vessel. They find an entire civilization living in the ship who believe they are actually on a planet, and a dictatorial oracle who forbids any attempt to discover the truth. This episode, it took me actually the longest time to get around to seeing this one, because I didn't always watch TOS all the way through.
Yeah.
So when I saw it for the first time, it was just like, oh, I finally got to it. Like, I'd seen the title a lot. I knew it happened. But this episode is interesting. Like, it gives some interesting McCoy moments, and like McCoy's relationship to Starfleet. But it once again has kind of the, evil computer controls an entire civilization and they have to trick it in order to free everybody. But like, this one's mostly enjoyable. It's a bit slow, interesting because it has a really long title.
Right, exactly.
So that's kind of indicative. So I wouldn't say this is one of the greatest episodes, but it's got some really good character moments between McCoy and Kirk.
Right. I agree. Yeah, and again, it's kind of, this is one that I feel like really got broken down. If you have that great 1975 Franz Joseph big binder, that's the technical manual. I think they have the Yondu asteroid on there. It's like, here it is, and here's the 5 million levels of it, or whatever it is. Yeah, it really seems like from the casting and the costumes and the redress sets, which were just, the most basic element. There was nothing about what could have been had they had a budget to do like a living asteroid, like could have done some really cool stuff with it, that absolutely nothing cool was done with it.
Yeah,
It was,
I mean, they were limited. They couldn't really do anything.
yeah, it was,
like you later see in like um I think they did it again in Enterprise, but they for sure did it in the Orville, and they did it much, much better.
yeah.
Where you went onto the planet and there's like grass and it feels like a living planet.
Right. Boy,
So that's what they were going for in this.
That's a absolutely tough sentence to say, that they did it better in the Orville.
Well,
ouch!
Technology. That's like the only. That's the main difference here.
Better tech. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I just thought, and then like Spock and actually McCoy and the woman, I just felt that felt very like, oh my God, I'm in love and I'm going to dedicate my life to you because I've known you for 5 minutes. It was very like super duper tropish within the framework.
I mean, there was the part of it where it's like McCoy is like, oh well, I kind of like her, and so I'm going to stay here and I'm going to die here. Okay, fine, whatever, McCoy.
Okay, fine. Yeah, whatever, dude. Come on now.
And then it's like, oh, I'm healed. Well, I'm going to stay here now because now I have to because I have this thing implanted in my neck or whatever it was.
Or whatever. It was a forehead. Yeah. Neck, forehead, something like somewhere in the general head vicinity.
Yeah, there's lots of things that get implanted on people that make their heads explode. So,
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you've seen this was Star Trek's take of the Suicide Squad. Absolutely. Or before there was a Suicide Squad. Maybe. I don't know. Or the exploding heads.
Yeah, I don't think the Suicide Squad come out yet. Yeah. Obviously the film, but I'm saying I don't know the comic.
Yeah, it's right in the comics, exactly. So yeah, so I was just like, it could have been so much more.
Yeah, but again, it's not one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, and really the whole concept of McCoy now has this crazy disease that there is no background for, and yeah, there's not a lot of incurable diseases in Star Trek because the medical technology is so great, but it's like, where did he get it and why? It was super tacked on.
Yeah.
So, speaking of things getting tacked on, you got tacked into the Tholian Web in episode 9, which was directed by Herb Wallerstein.
Yep.
Don't know him. Written by Judy Burns and Chet Richards. Again, not big old names that are jumping right out at you. This is from November of 1968. Captain Kirk caught between dimensions while the Enterprise is trapped in an energy-draining web spun by mysterious aliens. The two-part Enterprise in a Mirror Darkly serves as a sequel to this episode, which I was going to say that even if it wasn't written, because I found that to be endlessly more enjoyable than this episode. And I think this one probably suffered before and again, this one benefited greatly from the 2006, 40th anniversary recompositing of all the opticals, because you got the Defiant is the ship that they go and they're trying to rescue this ship, and they get beamed on board and found out that they finally figure out that space madness calls all the crew members to kill each other, but the ship is continuing to phase out and everybody beams back just in time except for Kirk, and that's why he's trapped between the dimensions. The Defiant itself gets dumped into the mirror universe 100 years in that past, which is, that seems pretty likely, doesn't it? That episode,
wormholes do as wormholes do. So.
I guess, yeah, wormholes do. That would be, if I hadn't already come up with such a great name for this episode, that might not be such a bad one. But I like what I picked, so you'll have to see it when the episode comes out. But I liked it. But yeah, the Kirk with his doing his floaty dance as he's kind of going between dimensions and stuff. And I don't know, man, it was cool. This gave us our first taste of the Tholians, and the Tholians obviously ended up being a big part of the Enterprise episode as well. It was pretty sweet. So I definitely think it was pretty cool. But yeah, the death of Captain Kirk, and then
and then Spock's major reaction when he's back.
Right. Yeah. Well, not the first time Spock had his big, like when he thought he killed him in a mock time, he was like, Jim!
That one was bigger, but
but this one was not insignificant. But even Uhura had the, it was funny, they spoofed this in the The Simpsons when Krusty the Clown faked his death, and then Bart sees him. Bart and Lisa find him, but he's he becomes a fisherman or whatever it is, and then I think Lisa says, "No, I saw Krusty. Yes, I know. You see him in your mind. No, I saw him on the street. Yes, you saw him on the street in your mind." I kind of feel like that's what they do to Uhura. Like, yes, we all see Captain Kirk. He's in our thoughts and prayers. Brr, 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 brr. That just kind of made me chuckle. But from the chuckle and enjoying something, we get into this next episode, which is really a double-edged sword because of something really historic it does, but then there's the rest of it. So why don't you tell us about episode number 10?
So episode 10 is Plato's Stepchildren of Historic and Infamy.
Infamy, yes.
Directed by David Alexander, who's directed many episodes in the past. Written by Meyer Dolinsky, aired November 22nd, 1968. The crew of the Enterprise encounters an ageless and mischievous race of psychic humanoids who claim to have organized their society around ancient Greek ideals, specifically the ancient Athenian philosopher Plato.
So, where to begin? I mean, okay, let's start with this. What's the big significance of this episode, Peter? Go ahead.
So, I mean, the main thing that this episode gets brought up for, rightly so, is that it was the first interracial kiss between an African-American woman and a white man on American syndicated or live television.
Right.
Some people point out it's like Lucille Ball had that when I can't remember the character.
It was
a Latino with.
Oh, right.
It's not as visually obvious.
Right, Ricky Ricardo.
Ricky Ricardo. So it's like people. I've seen some people try to take it away from this episode for that reason. It's like, no, this one's a really big deal, and one of the big deals is like the way that they did it. Like they were like, oh, we're gonna do some takes with and without the kiss,
Right.
And then Shatner purposefully did something stupid in the one take that they did without the kiss.
Right.
So they had to use one of the kiss takes. So believe what you will about Shatner, think what you will about it. That was a pretty solid move by him.
Right. He did pull out a nugget every once in a while.
Yeah.
But then we get around to the rest of the episode, which
the episode is kind of
the singing and the
dancing,
and the dancing, and the driver of this was the dwarf character, and again, I apologize. I know I know that people of diminutive status, that there are some expressions of it that are considered offensive. I apologize if I'm using the wrong one. I know that dwarf or midget gets used, or little person, small person. I apologize if you're listening to this, and I am certainly not attempting to be offensive. But anyway, that is the case with Alexander. He is the member of their group that doesn't have any of these psychic powers. But naturally, your team of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy do eventually decode that he can, that it's, what is it? It's something in the air, whatever it is, that they
something in food. Yeah.
Yeah. So that they inject into them. And then eventually Kirk and company are able to also have those powers, but really Alexander, because he's acclimated, is able to kind of rise up and maintain that and make it stop. But yeah, Alexander's riding Kirk around as a horse and making horsey noises. And it's just, overall, it's offensive and ridiculous. Spock singing, and then
and as a philosophy major, it's kind of irritating the way that they talk about Plato, because that's I think that's part of the point, is that they don't understand the Republic. But it was just like, whenever he talks, you're just like the leader of the group. You're just like, dude, you did not read Plato.
Yeah, exactly.
All. You suck so much.
Oh my God. Yeah. So
he's talking about the philosopher king, and I'm sitting there going like, yeah, no, that's right. And then he explains what he thinks that means. Like, no, that's not what that means at all.
You are incorrect, sir. Oh yeah. So yeah, you're right. So it's a double-edged sword, or barely a double-edged sword, because it's very dull on how the rest of the episode is just dumb. But again, you do find the power of the Kirk, Spock, and McCoy kind of triad figuring things out, and then eventually they're able to escape and get back to the ship, and all is well. Yeah. So I will admit, with this next episode, watching it through, bored me to death and I fell asleep. But I knew I'd seen it before. But yeah, episode 11 is The Wink of an Eye. This was directed by Judd Taylor. Story was by Gene L. Kuhn. Again, stalwart of the series. Teleplay by Arthur Heineman. Don't know him. From November of 68. An invisible, time-accelerated aliens take over the Enterprise and attempt to abduct the crew to use as genetic stock. I feel like this is really got a lot of similarities to the episode with, and again, I'm forgetting the name of it, with they snag the Enterprise and they're taking it to the center of the galaxy. It's with the dodecahedron cubes.
The Kelvin.
Yeah, the Kelvin. Yeah, exactly. And again, what was the name of that? Was it by any other name? Was that the name of that episode?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know, but
it's been a hot minute.
I feel like this one plus the one with the young lady and the overcrowded planet with Kirk.
Yeah, it's a very similar idea.
I just feel like they all kind of gel together, but I found, like I said, and maybe I was watching this too late at night or whatever it was. I can't remember, but I just was bored sideways by this.
Yeah, by any other name, that was the episode.
I just thought this one was just super dumb. But it was because it was time accelerated. I think the young lady chose a crewman, but then when he fought
died
with him, he scratched his neck, and that meant that he died. That meant that, that killed him. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like the whole concept of it. So I mean, I couldn't even, like I said, that plus the other two I mentioned, they just all seemed to gel together. So
yeah. I mean, this one, like, it had some interesting stuff where like they were able to like replay Kirk's log because they slowed it down, and then Spock was able to like shift into the really fast time frame.
Right.
It's like there was some interesting elements here, but it was, yeah. I mean, you could almost say the episode was a wink of an eye because you opened your eyes, you're like, oh, this episode. Oh, it's over.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, good. All right. and moving on. All right, so it takes us to number 12, and I kind of did a turn on this one, but go ahead. Tell us about episode 12.
This episode is The Empath, directed by John Ehrman, written by Joyce Muscat, aired December 6th, 1968. While visiting a doomed planet, the landing party is subject to torturous experiments to test an empathic race. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, and I opened the link to this because it says this is an episode is one of the handfuls not screened in the United Kingdom by the BBC for many years owing to its disturbing content of torture. It was not broadcast by the BBC until January 1994. Boy, that's weird. I really did not know about that.
Kind of like the one TNG episode that wasn't aired because it mentioned the Irish Rebellion.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like 2025.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like, hello. So yeah, the guest there was something about it, the character. They're beamed into a room, and it feels like this was also done in a TNG episode. It was in season 3 with Picard, and they were all in that room together. But he was replaced. Mm-hmm. He was replaced on the Enterprise, and then he seduced Beverly Crusher. It was just some weird stuff going on. So it was the same thing. It was a couple of aliens trying to swap out. Yeah, guest star Catherine Hayes, best known for her role on the CBS soap As the World Turns from 1972 to 2010. Wow, that's a long run. And she was. Why did I feel like she was actually a mute? I don't know why.
She never spoke in the
episode. But I thought I read somewhere that in real life she was a mute, but she wouldn't really be a mute if she was an actress and was on a soap opera for 40 years. That would not be the case. But yeah, she was an odd one. Part of me was like, oh God, she had this weird little pixie haircut, and she was doing a lot of these doing a lot of these like,
big expressions.
But yeah, I was thinking about like, oh God, who am I? I'm drawing a blank. Who is like Liza Minnelli? She was like the Liza Minnelli of Star Trek. She was like, A Star Is Born. I wish you could see me. I'm trying to gesticulate, but my camera is not working, as we said 50 times already. But yeah, it was just. It was a bizarre episode, and it seems like the music felt very 60s-ish. The sets were very 60s-ish. You had, both he and McCoy were strung up at one point. So that's obviously that was the BBC part of it that they really didn't care for, the torture aspect of it. And then, the Gem's power was, she could absorb physical injury out of someone else. She would take it on
herself, and then she could heal herself
and
more or
she
less.
could heal herself out of it and kind of just make the injury overall just pass away, which is cool. And I liked it. I feel like at the end of the episode, I'm like, I even had to play it back once or twice. I'm like, well, what the hell happens to her? She just is going to stay there on this, because a lot of it had to do with her deeming the aliens took her, and then they took them, and they were performing this experiment.
They were trying to see if she was ready to basically take care of a group of people.
Right.
And it almost looked like she died. I don't think did she actually die in the end?
It was weird. It was it was a quote from one of the guest actors who played the Vine. Given the minimal sets and the ludicrous pajama-like costumes of the regulars, oh, that's rude. The episode was quite successful in text and production. Boy, that really sounds like a left-handed compliment, as it were.
Yeah, she does die. Okay, yeah.
It was just and critical responses. Polygon ranked The Empath as one of the 3 best Spock-centric episodes of Star Trek. God, I never would have picked that. That's weird. But there were a couple of different places that really cited this as one of their favorite ensemble pieces between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. I don't know. I'm really kind of two ways about this episode. It's just, I always thought, I'm like, God, I saw it once and I thought it was absolutely friggin' dreadful. But in some ways it has kind of some redeeming characteristics about it. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Honestly, I kind of forgot about this episode.
Easy to do.
It didn't stick with me.
Right.
Probably because it felt a lot like the the TNG episode, like the Royale or whatever it is.
Oh, gotcha.
The hotel.
Oh, right.
Because like you step in and there's just the spinny door. Like that's what this whole thing felt like to me.
The spinny door.
And that episode, Charybdis or whatever it is, like that episode, the TNG one, I just don't like.
Right.
And so this one was giving me, because I'd seen the TNG episode before I saw this one. Like the way it started, it was just giving me those vibes, and so I didn't really, I didn't really like it that much, and because it was just really slow, and it didn't seem to have there wasn't really like a great message that I took away from this one, so it didn't like stick out to me.
Right.
Because like aliens trying to manipulate someone to be like sympathetic or empathetic,
right,
just seemed like, okay, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
There's some interesting Kirk Spock moments. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Right.
But overall, but that's with a lot of episodes. Like we mentioned, there's a couple episodes where like the episode kind of sucks. Like, The World is Hollow and I've Touched the Sky. There's some great McCoy Kirk moments in there, and some pretty good McCoy Spock moments in there. But the episode overall,
it kind of turns into like a
take or leave it.
Like a Star Wars prequel thing. You're like, oh my God, for years with my kids watching episode 1, I would just skip to chapter 38 because it was the Duel of the Fates. And then you could watch that big lightsaber fight with Darth Maul and the 2 Jedi. And it was awesome. But then the rest of the movie, you still got Anakin and pod racing and all that shit.
Well, see, I love episode 1. So.
Oh my God. We should have had you on to be our guest on that episode. We should have had you on to be our, guest host in that episode, because wow. Yeah, there's it's a generational thing. But anyway.
It is.
We can get into that at another time. So let's wrap this up. These 6 episodes, let's have a favorite and a least favorite. So go for it.
Well, my favorite would probably be at this point Tholian Web.
Okay.
It in part because of its connection with the later Enterprise episode.
True.
Because it has that cool connection.
Right.
And I'm not saying like Enterprise is way better than TOS. I'm saying that this episode gets help boosted in my I like this category because it has a continued story.
Gotcha. Indeed. All right, and then a least favorite.
I mean, probably the
Where do I
empath.
begin?
Probably
Oh.
the empath.
Oh, come on, Jem. But she's truly outrageous. Different Jem. Sorry, you probably don't get that reference, young man.
No, I don't. I'm sure if you explained it
that's
to me,
good.
I would get it. But
Yes, but that is really contrary to the point.
yeah, exactly.
I totally understand. It was way 60s ish. And I'm not going to say that one is my favorite. My favorite of the pack was I love the Day of the Dove. It was we got some good Klingon stuff. You had Kirk kind of doing what Kirk and Spock and McCoy figuring out, the crux of how they're being manipulated and how to undo it. The sword fighting stuff is kind of fun. And you get, the Klingons as warriors. This was really the best sampling. And this was the biggest group of Klingons you got to see together because
it was.
I think
it was the Organians, which
which is when they were introduced, the Day of the Dove, and when they were introduced,
this one's Day of the Dove.
It was the Errand of Mercy.
Yep, Errand of
season 1, yeah, exactly. End of season 1 when we got John Koklios' Kang. So that was my favorite. My least favorite. This is a tough pick. But like I said, the wink of an eye put me to sleep, so I almost can't really hold it against. But the Plato's stepchildren, Plato's redheaded stepchildren. My God, that one sucked. And again, it's a double-edged sword. It's a catch-22 because it did give us that historic.
It's got some great stuff in there.
Yeah, it had that historic moment, but the rest of the episode was just super dumb. And like you said, for you, it goes on a deeper level because of your own connection with being a philosophy major. So. All right. Well, wrapping that up, we're now halfway through the final season of this show. And to be honest with you, I will be glad when it's over. But, that is really our stated mission, is that we're going to get through and we're going to talk about all the Star Treks, because that's what Code 47 is all about. So that being said, Peter, where do people find you out there on the internet? I took away your outro. Peter, take us out.
All right. For more information about Starfleet International, please visit Grant Petoskey on Facebook, Instagram, and or Twitter.
You got it. All right, back to what I was saying. Peter, where do people find you on the socials?
All right. You can find me online at Petrus_Aquinas, basically anywhere, Twitter, Twitch, whatever. That's where you find me.
That's the one. And of course, you can find me over on Twitter at the C3, spell it out. I actually started dabbling a little bit with TikTok over the weekend, so I changed that to my handle as well. You can find me there. I don't really have any content. Probably that's a good thing. But at Secret Friends, we're going to try to work on that. You can also find me at that same handle over on Instagram. But yeah, that's that. And of course, I am populating the Secret Friends Unite Facebook page with content. So if you see that, there's a good chance it came from me and my efforts. April and I also, of course, run the USS Grand Petoskey. Peter's a crew member, so is Katie. We'd love to have you join, whether you live in West Michigan or somewhere else. Find us at that website and on all socials under that name. So with that, I'm going to tell you, as always, I'm not as always, but I do miss my webcam. I'm going to get it fixed. You'll be seeing me. We're going to do the Ritos thing again because I'm so super pissed that it didn't work. But I'm going to tell you, as always, that sharing is caring and to keep on trekking.
Peace and long life.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.